The National Desk, America's News Now.
About 45% of the country getting their news on TikTok. I mean, look, in the middle of the Cold War, we wouldn't have allowed the Soviet Union to own CNN. That's really what we're talking about here.
TikTok on the chopping block. Will the popular social media app be dismantled in the U.S.? Spring is about a week away, but it's not too late for a winter storm. Who's getting hit with up to 3 feet of snow? Pot pardons. Which state is looking to wipe marijuana possession convictions clean from all criminal records? This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Divest from China or you're banned. That is what House representatives are saying to TikTok, the social media app used by roughly 170 million Americans. In a strong bipartisan vote, the House passed a measure that would force TikTok to split from its China parent company ByteDance, but it's a move that also has bipartisan opposition.
I don't believe the government should be banning apps in the App Store, and this bill was a divest or ban TikTok bill.
This is blatantly unconstitutional, and I don't think the courts would uphold it.
So could Americans lose one of their favorite social media apps for good? Atrel Nashar breaks down the bill's chances for passage in the Senate.
Congress putting TikTok on notice.
The yeas are 352, the nays are 65.
In a rare showing of bipartisanship, the House passing legislation that would require TikTok to be spun off from China-based parent company ByteDance or be banned in the U.S.
TikTok is a threat to our national security because it is owned by ByteDance, which does the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party. We know this because ByteDance leadership says so, and because Chinese law requires it.
Our intention is for TikTok to continue to operate, but not under the control of the Chinese Communist Party.
The bill's odds look a lot different in the Senate. No firm commitment yet from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to even bring it up for a vote.
I'll have to consult and intend to consult with my relevant committee chairman.
After the House vote Wednesday, the leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner and Marco Rubio, announced joint support of the bill, saying they look forward to getting it passed through the Senate. Smooth passage is no guarantee. Some have constitutional concerns.
If the company is banned or you say it can't have the current ownership and the company goes away, you're basically taking their First Amendment rights away with them also.
TikTok aggressively lobbying against the legislation, pointing to the 170 million Americans and millions of small businesses on the platform. Some senators refusing to meet with TikTok. Republican Tom Cotton of Arkansas says it's no better than meeting with Hamas or the Taliban. Even if ByteDance wanted to sell TikTok, China could use export controls to potentially block the sale of TikTok's algorithm. China's foreign ministry calls the legislation an act of bullying that will eventually backfire on the U.S. In this election year, Democrats recognize the political risk in associating the president with a ban on one of the most popular apps in America.
Cutting out a large group of young voters is not the best known strategy for re-election.
On Capitol Hill, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And this just in, a specialized U.S. fast Marine unit in Haiti to secure the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince. This comes as armed gangs control more than 80% of the capital, forcing the prime minister to resign as he remains out of the country. This past weekend, the U.S. Embassy evacuated all non-essential personnel during the violent upheaval. The embassy remains open, but it is on very limited capacity. New charges have been filed against 3 men in Kansas City connected to the mass shooting at the Chiefs Super Bowl parade on February 14th. 22-year-old Fido Antonio Manning, 21-year-old Ronell Dwayne Williams Jr., and 19-year-old Shaylin Hendrick Groves have been indicted on multiple firearm-related complaints. They were among at least 12 people who took out their guns during the parade. 2 others had previously been charged with second-degree murder, among other offenses in the shooting that injured dozens and killed 1. A judge in the 2020 Georgia election interference case is dismissing some of the charges against former President Trump and his co-defendants. Judge Scott McAfee says the 6 charges getting tossed don't have enough details on the crimes. They have to do with soliciting elected officials to violate their oaths of office. The rest of the charges are still intact. McAfee says prosecutors can seek a new indictment on the dropped charges. Right now, a Michigan jury weighing the fate of James Crumbley, the father of the teen who fatally shot 4 students at his high school in 2021. This after the prosecution and the defense both rested their cases without Crumbley testifying. James and his wife Jennifer were each charged with manslaughter for allegedly ignoring their son's pleas for mental help. Jennifer was convicted last month. The cases represent the first time parents of a school shooter were held directly responsible for the actions of their child. And this just in, an Oklahoma medical examiner has determined that the death of non-binary high school student Nex Benedict was a suicide. The 16-year-old died the day after a fight in a school bathroom on February 7th. Toxic levels of 2 drugs were found in Benedict's body. A complete autopsy will be released in the next 10 days. Drivers in Arkansas will no longer be able to list a gender other than their birth gender on their driver's licenses, ending a 2010 policy that allowed gender-neutral drivers to list X as their gender. The rule change is being met with some concern. Lake Smith, a transgender woman, believes this change is not a good thing.
If you have all your information there and that's who you are, that's your life, and they take that away, they're taking away your identity and everything about you that you believe as yourself and you know as yourself. So it's trying to strip your identity away.
But Arkansas DFA Secretary Jim Hudson says the previous policy is not supported by Arkansas law, saying in part, this change announced today reflects a common sense approach that ensures a license or ID issued by the state of Arkansas is based on objective, verifiable information. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey moving to pardon all misdemeanor convictions for marijuana possession on record in the state. The plan has to be approved by the governor's council, but if it goes through, immediately and automatically tens of thousands of convicted offenders will have their records wiped clean. 2 exceptions to the pardon exist, however. Related offenses like driving under the influence will not be included, nor would any juvenile possession convictions be changed. Eligible veterans who are single or in same-sex marriages will soon be able to receive in vitro fertilization from the Department of Veterans Affairs. They'll also be able to use donated sperm or eggs. Until now, the VA has only offered IVF to vets who were married and could biologically produce sperm or eggs. The secretary says they're working to make these changes as soon as possible. Hunter Biden will not testify publicly before the House Oversight Committee. Scheduled for March 20th, Hunter was to appear alongside his former business associates as Republicans continue their push to impeach his father, President Joe Biden. In a letter to the committee chairman, Hunter's lawyer, Abby Lowell, said this was not a proper proceeding and called the event a sideshow. Chairman Comer said he still expects Hunter to appear, but the president's son is not compelled to show by a subpoena this time. Donald Trump and Joe Biden each have secured their party's nomination, but could the unprecedented nature of this rematch mean there's still hope for a third-party candidate? Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell.
Just 1 week after Super Tuesday, both President Biden
this is the time of choosing
and former President Trump are celebrating clinching the nomination for their parties.
We won at numbers that nobody has ever seen before.
The victories come as polls reveal widespread dissatisfaction with the choices.
It is the rematch few Americans seem to want.
A brand new poll raising eyebrows and hopes for some that there's still room for another choice, with public opinion on who would do a better job as president split, essentially into thirds between Trump, Biden, and neither. Perhaps one reason why Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who continues to poll in double digits, is moving forward, even getting closer to choosing a running mate.
Jesse the Body Ventura!
former Minnesota governor and professional wrestler Jesse Ventura, and another athlete, New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, reportedly among his top choices.
Some people, they just want to break from the two-party system, and that's really what he represents.
Every 4 years, we are expected to continue to vote Democrat, an independent candidate, which some feel is a waste of a vote. This is why it's actually appealing this time around.
But with more than 6 months left in the campaign season, voters feel comfortable, quote, flirting with other candidates, according to political science professor Todd Belt, who says historically that's turned around on Election Day.
People are oftentimes very motivated by the fear of the other side, and they generally see one of the candidates as being a real big threat. And so when it comes down to it, when they get into the voting booth, they just can't pull that lever for the third-party candidate.
Still, some wonder if this year history may not be our guide, given the highly polarized political environment, a host of legal issues, and of course, two unpopular candidates who are, frankly, very old. Amira?
Right, that is the narrative we keep hearing over and over. And as far as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is there worry he could pull votes away from either campaign?
There is certainly always that worry, especially from many with the Biden campaign. But if the polls remain close, history has shown that voters usually choose either red or blue. By the way, we did just learn RFK Jr. will announce his vice presidential pick on March 26th. So be sure to mark your calendar, Amira.
We sure will. Christine Frizzell reporting in Washington, D.C. for us. Thank you. And coming up, how much it can cost to escape war-torn Gaza and how an Oklahoma City woman is trying to help. Then reaction to Airbnb's new policy banning surveillance cameras in rentals. And later, a terrifying accident caught on camera. What caused a pizza oven at a Texas restaurant to catch on fire and how the victim is doing tonight. Denver and Boulder, Colorado are bracing for what could be the region's biggest winter storm seen in 3 years. Heavy snow tonight into tomorrow could make travel very dangerous across the central and southern Rockies and Four Corners region. Denver could see up to 18 inches of snow and Boulder could see up to 20 inches of snow. The Rocky Mountains to the west could get 4 feet of snow by Friday. Then in Los Angeles, 3 houses damaged and 1 destroyed after a major landslide this morning. Officials say the soil that's still saturated after last month's heavy rain contributed to that. City employees have been evaluating the buildings and the surrounding areas. Several people were evacuated, but no one was hurt. New tonight, the IDF answering questions over a deadly airstrike on a UN food distribution center in Rafah that killed 5 people, including a UN worker. Israel saying one of the slain was a Hamas operative it was targeting. The country says more military actions on Gaza's southernmost town of Rafah are in the near future, announcing today it has plans to direct the city's 1.4 million displaced civilians toward designated areas ahead of its planned offensive. The fate of people in Rafah remains of top concern for leaders in the United States and globally who fear a surge in the civilian death toll and the expansion of an already dire hunger crisis. A military spokesperson says designated safe areas would provide temporary housing, food, water, and other necessities to evacuated Palestinians. But concerns remain over alleged safe passages, with the IDF's military campaign reaching countless areas that were supposed to be free from the crossfire, but ultimately were not. With a potential ground invasion of Rafah looming, the National Desk spoke with one woman who is desperate to get her 5 children to safety. She's one of many who are turning to crowdfunding in hopes of buying their way out. Her fundraising effort is being spearheaded by an Oklahoma City woman who says she felt the call to help.
6 months into the conflict in the Middle East, desperation to get out of Gaza is growing.
I need your help, and everyone to help me to leave Gaza as soon as possible.
That's the voice of Hiba Ahmad Medhoun, seen here with her family. The innocence of her 5 children eroding through the loss of their home and injury. The family of 7 cramming into this tent in Rafah, the southernmost city in Gaza, since the middle of October.
Now we live in this tent, as you see. You know, to live in a tent means to live without life. There's no good water, or there's no good or healthy food.
The UN says more than 500,000 people in the region are on the brink of starvation. The situation's so dire, people are seeking any way out if they can find the money for it.
I think I'm her only connection here. And she just said, you know, to coordinate travel to Egypt, it has to be somebody outside of Palestine to request it.
Kate Robinson has been taking virtual Arabic lessons with Medhoun for 2 years in her home in Oklahoma City.
With me, you can learn the classical Arabic and Palestinian dialect.
She feels compelled to do something and has started a GoFundMe page to help the family pay for permission to flee Gaza. There's the cost of fleeing war, and then there's the potential price of doing nothing at all.
I'm not going to be able to live with myself if she loses her children or if something happens to her, and I could have done more.
So please help me.
And with the holy month of Ramadan now upon us, a prayer for peace may be on everyone's lips.
It is the end of the road for about 1,000 dollar stores in communities across the country. Dollar Tree, the parent company of Family Dollar, says it will close 600 locations in the first half of this year, then close another 370 stores as leases expire over the next several years. The closures represent a reversal of the retailer's rapid expansion after acquiring Family Dollar back in 2015. The company cites inflation and retail losses, posting a $882 million loss in the last fiscal year as more shoppers turn to places like Walmart and Aldi. Sweeping new changes announced just this week by Airbnb regarding a controversial security camera policy. Interior cameras by the host are no longer allowed beginning April 30th. The National Desk's Justin Berger is in Asheville, North Carolina, taking a look at how one service property management company there is reacting to the news.
Exterior cameras like this will still be allowed as long as you disclose their presence to guests, but interior cameras in common areas soon to be a relic of the past. You think this is a good decision Airbnb is making?
Absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done this sooner.
Emily Baker is the marketing coordinator at Graybeard Rentals, a full-service property management company with over 250 short-term rentals, 60% of which are listed on Airbnb in Buncombe, Rutherford, Burke, and McDowell County.
The guest privacy is number one in our minds, and we'd like to hope that they're going to honor the places that they're staying and respect the rules. But we fully trust the people that we welcome into our homes, and we would expect Airbnb to have that same level of trust.
Airbnb, which previously allowed cameras in common areas like hallways and living rooms, is banning them completely starting April 30th. Not a problem for Graybeard Rentals, which never allowed interior cameras. You have found monitoring of any kind to be a turnoff for people?
It can be. It depends, I think, on the group. Some people feel safer that way, and then other people prefer to have a completely private and off the beaten path experience.
Baker estimates around 25% of their properties have exterior cameras. Violations of Airbnb's new policy, which includes new language about exterior cameras and noise decibel monitors, can result in listing or account removal.
We really care about giving our guests the best experience possible, and we also care about our owners feeling that they can fully trust us to manage their homes.
Would you stay in a home with an indoor camera?
I would not.
That was Justin Berger reporting. An Apple Watch may have just saved someone's life after a car crash in Wisconsin. Racine County emergency responders got an automated call early Sunday that said the owner of this Apple Watch is in a severe car crash and is not responding. Police found the driver outside of a truck on the side of a road and rushed them to the hospital. The victim is thankfully expected to recover. And coming up, Seattle businesses are getting hit hard by crime. How much the owner of a barber shop had to pay out for repairs after a recent break-in when we come back. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Texas with an explosion at a pizza parlor caught on camera.
This minor burns all the way through here, armpit over here, so lost my eyebrows. Just more the scare than anything.
Those burns tell a story. Fernando Fuentes, the owner of Lily's Pizza, says he is happy to still be here to tell. This video shows the moment his pizza oven burst into flames after he lit the pilot.
Now I know how, in a split second, just getting out of bed, just to come open the front door.
The cause of the explosion is now believed to be a gas bubble that can't be seen, heard, or smelled. Fuentes says the flames were so intense, he thought he was on fire.
And I watched that video, and it's terrifying. Like I said, I thought there was more to it than what should have happened. And because I'm just counting my blessings, and an angel was with me. And God, Jesus was right there beside me and pushed me out of the way.
I think it's a good bill, and I think it's going to show a lot of transparency, and it's going to make the reports that our officers are writing more accurate.
State Rep Russ Ford helped write House Bill 3598, which would allow officers to review their body camera footage before writing a report.
In stressful situations, sometimes you may recall something one way when it really happened another way. So this is just to make sure that the report reflects what's on the body camera.
It would also let law enforcement agencies create their own general guidelines for body cam use.
I don't think that we should have one statewide policy that says, forcing the local government to comply with what the state's saying on these body cameras.
The for sale signs in front of DeMarcus Wigfall's barbershop symbolize a conflicted future for him. On one hand, he'd like to stay in Seattle, but on the other hand is the crime he keeps dealing with. Most recently, a few days ago.
Smashing doors, like my door frame, I just priced that out. That is like, over $1,000, $2,000 if I get the frame also replaced on that.
Wigfall opened the Singing Barber during the pandemic, but in the last year, he's been hit twice. Items now stolen, shears and clippers, thousands of dollars worth. At this point, he feels like he must speak up.
If you act nonchalant and also apathetic about the stuff that's going on here, then you will lose neighbors, you will lose business, you will lose revenue, your property value goes down, and then it becomes a ghost town.
So for now, the for sale signs will stay up, at the very least to send a message to city leaders and the community.
And coming up, where in this galaxy aliens could exist and what NASA is doing this October to find out if they actually do. We'll be right back. It's a message in a bottle of sorts. NASA has shared the dispatch it will include in its Europa Clipper, set to launch this October on a SpaceX rocket to Jupiter's Europa moon. The spacecraft is meant to determine whether the moon has conditions underneath its icy surface that could support life. So within that vein, the message on this triangular plate here includes a portrait of one of the founders of planetary science and also the Drake equation, the 1961 formulation created to estimate the possibility of finding advanced civilizations beyond Earth. It is thought very possible that extraterrestrial life could exist there, but don't expect to know anytime soon. It's a slow learning process here. For example, this plate won't even arrive until 6 years from now, reaching Jupiter in April of 2030 with the help of some gravity. And that does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.